Hello Internet, my name is Gothic Lord UK, and as you know I enjoy playing flop games, draw games, to some extent stud games, less so, and I always sit down and I think what could I play, what could be entertaining and interesting, something a bit different, and I was going through the Pokerstars lobby today and it dawned on me, why not just play 8 game mix? We'll play 8 major variants of poker in rotation, 6 hands of each a go, and just see what happens. And so we're currently on hand 3 of 6 in the limit stud rotation. You'll see up in the top menu bar of the game, as well as in the centre of the table, what the game is. And so obviously at the moment we are in limit stud. Limit stud would probably be the game I know least about of almost every variant of poker that you can imagine. But because we're here, we might as well get started, and so I'm going to sit down with my $25, that is a full stack for the table, and see if we can't win some money. And so I'm going to endeavour to play at least a full rotation of the 8 games, so we're starting on stud. Depending on how long the orbit of all the games takes, we might end on stud, we might do 2 full loops, we might end somewhere in between. But if we look at this hand immediately, we can see that all of the 8s are out. And so there's an 8, an 8, an 8, and then we have an 8 in the hole. And so we know none of our opponents can have a pair of 8s, and we have a pair of 7s, and so we're going to come out raising here, because we know that none of our opponents can have a better pair than us unless that pair is in the hole, in other words the exact 2 cards that are hidden. We each catch a 6, and so unless either of us were to have a 6, our hands increase in value equally. We'll come along for another street, and so unless he has 9s or higher in the hole, we are currently likely to be winning. Come along for another street. We are both showing the kings, but we have an ace up now. Unfortunately, I don't think I can check raise him off of this pot, but I still like my 7s, and so we're going to carry on. And I'm probably just going to pay him off for a last dollar here. And so he was bluffing the whole way. We knew that he couldn't have had a pair of 8s in the hole, which is obviously very good for us. Pair of 8s, one exposed, is going to be a raise. I should say, obviously you can probably tell from the other players, but every player gets 7 cards. 2 cards are in the hole, like you'd see in a hold'em hand. 2 cards are unknown, and then the next 4 cards are played face up. We're going to, of course, lead with our aces. We've got 3 spades, which isn't too bad either. But you see, we've got 2 cards that are a little bit lower, then 2 cards that are a little bit higher. The 2 cards that are higher are obviously the cards that our opponent can see. The 3 Broadway cards over there are a little disconcerting, because if he had something like if you had like 3 cards, Jack 10-10 or King 10-10 or something, then we could easily be behind. But I think our pair of aces is going to be good here some of the time. And with the king and the queen in our hole, that's less cards that they can have to win. And we will take that hand down as well. And so, for not knowing too much about stud, we're doing pretty well to begin with. Noticing now there's a 6 dead here and a 6 dead there. So that is unlikely that anybody's going to be catching a pair of 6s in this round. If the jack raises, we will be re-raising, because we want to try and get rid of the 2 players that are behind us. And just because he's got a jack showing, by no means means he has a pair of jacks. And just because it's the highest face card of the group, doesn't mean he is necessarily beating the pair of 9s we have in the hole. And so stud, of course, is a limit game, meaning you can only bet in the set increments of the game before you start. Oh, we catch trips, which is just glorious, and so we will be raising here. He has 3 to a flush, which is quite scary. We do have the blockers to his straight flush, which isn't so bad, but we can still get 2 streets out to a full house. And we're just going to play pretty passively, considering the strength of our hand here. Unless, of course, we improve to a full house. And I'm just going to keep raising here. No reason to slow down. And he even folds on the end there. And so now we are playing limit stud high-low, and so the structure of the hand is the same, in which we get 2 cards down, 4 cards up, and a 7th card down. But in this game it is split pot to the same regard that well played faggot, I expect that would be. Yes, well played faggot for catching trips on the 4th Street and rivering a boat. I think the terms probably don't work out quite the same in a stud game, but where was I? In this game we're trying to get a high hand and a low hand. A high hand will be the traditional scoring rank of Royal Flush is best, high card is worst. But we also play for half the pot to the lowest 5 scoring cards, being between ace and 8 of different ranks. So ace deuce tray 4 5 would be a straight for high, or 5 low for low, which is the best low, of course. Flushes and straights don't account against your low, but they do qualify you for your high. As opposed to something like deuce to 7 draw, where flushes and straights do count against you, and you want to be getting 7 high with no flush or straight counting against you. And so here it's a case of generally you want baby cards. Obviously these guys with deuces and trays are more likely to be able to catch a good low and a good high, and as a result they're more likely to scoop the pot, which is the general goal. If in a split pot game you can win all of the money, that's generally going to be a best case scenario and the situation you should try to be putting yourself in. And so with like king 6-8 here, especially because stud is my weakest game, I'm alright at Raz, because Raz is exclusively for low, and my brain ticks over in a way that cooperates with low ball draw, and like split pot games it's a little bit easier. Obviously in the high stud there we were getting very lucky with our hands, 1-3 pots in a row. But here I'm being less inclined to dabble with hands that I'm not quite so happy with or knowing to play. It's also worth pointing out the betting structure in these games. Every player plays an ante. The button does not move in these games. The button only moves in the draw and flop variants, because the way that the blind structure is determined is by who has the worst qualifying up card. And so in the stud hands we were playing earlier, if we replay back to one of those, so this was stud. If we replay the hand, everyone plays an ante, and so the deuce of clubs is the worst card because we're playing for high. Deuce of clubs is the worst, and so they have a choice of either coming in for a bring in, which is a small bet, or they can make a first standard bet of 50 cents here. And then the betting goes around 50 cents, $1, $1.50, $2, capping at the 4th bet. That carries on for 2 streets, and then the blinds double to, or the bets double to $1, $2, $3, $4. With deuce 4 here, we're going to make a raise. And so in high-low, the low card does get to be the bring in, which is generally beneficial. In Raz it would be the highest card, which is going to be less beneficial because you want low cards, of course. And now we are back in the land of no limit Texas Hold'em. By all means feel free to tell me how I play all of these hands terribly, just because whilst I have played more Hold'em than anything else, I do not consider myself to be a good player. Although with King 9 here and 6-handed and the limping, we are going to attack a bit. This guy's only got $3, so he's not as scary. We've got position on the bigger stack. And so that is a fairly wet board, but we are going to give a C-bet just because we have position and initiative and all that stuff. But with 4 cards to a straight and 3 spades and all that, I'm inclined to just give up. Of course, we could make the second nut straight on the river there, because that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so we'll bet because they didn't lead out. Of course, we're only losing to flushes or the higher straight, which would be 9, 10. I bet he's pissed off at us for hitting a river as well. He didn't seem to be too happy with our play in the stud rounds. Out of the small blind, I'm just going to let ace deuce go. I'm fairly nitty when it comes to playing out of the blinds and stuff in raised pots or just generally I'm fairly nitty. So we have a set versus two pair. Set's obviously going to win, but he only lost like $3 there. Deuce 9 from the button, I'm just going to let go rather than getting myself into trouble. Excuse me while I have a quick cough and sip of water, and I shan't suffer your ears through that. I apologise if I'm talking very fast and there's a lot to take in all at once here, but with the rotation of the games and the six-handed, relatively quick action, I am trying to verbalise as much as my thought process in as short a period of time as I can to give you guys a good idea of what's going on. Pocket queens, of course, make a standard 3x open. Just going to take a quick note here that everyone behind us is almost basically a full stack, or if not more. Going to c-bet on the middling card flop. Just over 2/3 pot. It's fairly aggressive. And so he comes back raising at us. He could have a flush draw and likes to play it aggressively. He could have made a set already. He could have tens or jacks. And so I think the line I prefer is to raise here, and then if we get shoved on, then fold and be prepared to commit a little bit more money and get away rather than getting it all in and losing $16 more. And so if he has jacks, then we're not very happy because he's obviously just made a set. He could be trapping with aces or kings, unlikely but always a possibility. I think if he had flopped three of a kind, then he would have just shoved. And for a pot size bet here, basically if we bet half pot and he shoves on us, we're just going to be calling anyway. And so I'm inclined to just shove the turn and see if he wants to call. The non-instant snap call makes me happy, and we'll take that one down. And so I might not have gotten the best value out of my hand there, but I like the line I took, and I was going to lose the minimum if we were behind, if he had flopped better than us. But seeing as we've done an 1.5 orbits, 2 orbits of games, and we've already doubled our buy-in, I'm certainly quite a happy chap. So now we are playing PLO. PLO is up there with my worst games. Omaha high-low, as I said before, I can do. They've got that low component. My brain works it over quite happily. In a PLO, I generally know that you want lots of Broadway cards or 4 cards that all work together really nicely. Of course, you could have just flopped top set if you'd have played, but we can't possibly worry about that. But the hand that we have, King, 8-3, the 8 and 3 just don't work with anything apart from having clubs. It's just a pretty terrible hand, even if we would have the current nuts. Now Queen 10 makes the nuts straight. And so a set of 5s probably would have paid us off. Ace deuce jack jack. The ace deuce makes obviously the bottom 2 cards of a wheel, and ace jack is within the realms of Broadway. And we have a pair of jacks and spades, and because this is cheap and I don't think these guys are going to re-raise behind us, we'll see if we can't catch some spades or a jack or something. And if this guy pots it, then we'll just get away. Excuse me while I cough once more. And there you have it. Much like the last hand where we didn't play, but this hand we obviously decided to play. Flop top set, the 7 and deuce in no way connected, and so unless somebody has a wrap to 8, 9, 10, unlikely that they're ahead. Because it's a fairly dry board, only the wraps are going to be scary. Obviously if somebody has a set of 7s, then they might pay us off more, but I don't think people are going to be limping along too much. Because this guy's we've been like in a little war with Do here, I think he might pay us off, but no, he does just fold again. As I said, I really don't know what is good strategy or correct play in Omaha. Maybe calling there would have been better and see if we can't extract value. I really don't know. With 2 pairs and a flush draw, I will just call. I don't really like getting it all in or trying to get it all in with a couple of pot-sized bets with aces and something else in this game, unless it's like ace, ace, jack, 10 or something. And so, like, two pairs obviously beating us. But when it goes check, 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 we will keep up our aggression and our initiative. I say we don't have initiative, but we've been winning lots of pots, and that aggression's been working to our favour, and so we're going to keep that up. We don't get raised. We don't get raised until here, and now this guy's all in, so he probably has like two pair or three of a kind or better, and I'm not going to lose another $15 to this guy just holding on two aces. And at least we get to find out. Jack 8 and a wrap. And he will win both of those. Fold the Jack, Jack, 8 deuce. Two bad flushes and pretty disconnected. And so, whilst we're not in the hand, 8-game mix, as I opened with, saying we are playing 8-game mix. What I will do is pull up the lobby and see if the lobby will tell me what the actual 8-game mix is, because pulling it up off the top of my head is going to be a little bit more difficult. I feel like I might miss something, but it's obviously, let's see if I can do it off the top of my head. We started with stud, stud high low, there will be Raz, Hold'em, no limit Hold'em, fixed limit Hold'em, pot limit Omaha, Omaha high low, and fixed limit Omaha high low, and fixed limit deuce 7 triple draw. That's 8 games, I believe, not necessarily in that order. And so with ace 3-3-4, we certainly would have played Omaha high low with this hand, but Omaha high, this isn't quite quite the strength we want it to be. If we were to make like a straight, say, there's certainly, if somebody was playing 8-7-6-5 or something, there's a good chance that they could certainly have the higher end of a straight in that instance, if in the instances that we also make a straight. Jack 10-9-7 is relatively connected, and so we would have probably defended against a single raise there. And now we are in my favourite territory in all the land, limit deuce to 7 triple draw low ball. And so this game we are trying to make 5 different cards without catching a flush or a straight. Aces are always high, and the player with the lowest traditional scoring hand wins. And so the absolute nuts in this game is 7 high with a 5 kicker, followed by 7 high with a 6-4 kicker, 7 high with a 6-5-3 kicker, and so on down the line. And so with deuce tray 5 here, we will be raising. Generally in this game you always want to have a deuce in your hand if you're starting, unless you have something like 3, 4, 5, 8 that will generally be strong enough. And we'll make a mental note here that all 3 players drew 2 cards. We will not be keeping the 9 because the 9's just a bit too rough. The first round of betting after the first draw, or the second round of betting after the first draw rather, is always very cheap, and so we will come along for 50 cents into $3 and have another draw. We catch a 7, which is excellent for us, and getting just over 6-1 on our call here. We will be calling and trying to catch a 4 for the nuts or a 6 for a very good hand. Queen is not that card. We will not be calling this dollar on the end. Excuse me, didn't get to my mic in time that time. And so with all these Broadway cards we will be folding. Something definitely worth keeping in mind is that often somebody like me who thinks, oh, I'm really good at deuce to 7, it's my best game. In mixed games, players will be inclined to try and outplay all the other players at the table because they feel like they know a game best. And so whether that's stud or PLO or whatever else, they will open up their starting hand range really wide and play much looser and call off lighter just because they think they're better than the other players. And that's generally a problem, because just because you think you're better than another player doesn't mean that your hand strength has become any better. So somebody like me might think, oh, 865, it's like 3 cards to an 8, everyone else is probably really bad. Whereas in reality, you have to check yourself and just make sure that you are make sure that you are playing competently and not just letting your ego get the better of you. You don't want to be choosing to play every hand just because you think it's your best game. That's what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. So what do we have left? We have Fixed Limit, Hold'em, Fixed Limit, Omaha High Low, and Raz, I think, are the last 3 games. And we are up to about 20 minutes. So what we'll probably do is maybe do what we've done recently and play for about a half hour or a full orbit of the games, take a quick break, and then if I'm still happy with the table and so forth, do a second part. And so 765 here is really bad. You need to catch a deuce in order to have a even remotely qualifying hand, because an 8's no good to you because you've got the 7, and then you're drawing to a straight, which is even worse. And so we're not even going to do anything tricky here or get funny. We are just going to happily give that one up. Now we are in Limit Hold'em, and Limit Hold'em is not really a game that I'm too well versed in either. I know that the math element of No Limit Hold'em, so the pot odds, working out the number of outs you have, immediate odds and stuff, is very important in this game, because you can know exactly how many bets are going to come in subsequent streets and so forth. And so 9-10 looks really pretty, and it's only 80 more cents, but because we're out of position for the rest of the hand and I'm trying not to do anything foolish, we will just let that one go. Obviously we would have made a flush, of course, but I'm not going to punish myself for playing on the side of caution. Ace deuce we will happily raise from the button. Being suited helps. With a pair of deuces we'll come along betting. He can certainly have all kinds of king queens, ace kings, all that sort of stuff. And we'll take that one with a c-bet and a continued c-bet on the turn. Fold 8-10 here. And so which games do you guys wish was played more in, say, like casino games? Because any casino that you go into in these parts of England, it will just be Hold'em, and the occasional game of PLO will run. But that's the only game that you'll get. There's no dream in my life that I could walk into a card room and play deuce to 7 or anything like that. But do you guys have a particular game that you would wish was played more in casinos or tournaments and stuff? Because the World Series, what gets me is the World Series still is, obviously there's a decent number of Hold'em events, but they still have a Raz Championship, a Stud Championship, a Stud High-Low Championship, a Deuce to 7 Championship, a Deuce to 7 Single Draw Championship, and all these games are so, like, not celebrated I suppose, but still represented at the World Series. And yet there's so little of it going on, especially in the micro stakes. I know up in the nosebleeds they play deuce to 7 for like 1k, 2k blinds and stuff, but that's well beyond attainability for most of us folk. God, I need to stop coughing, excuse me. And so, limit Omaha High-Low. We will be raising with Ace 3-4 King. Obviously Ace Deuce would be preferable, but with 3 cards, and now the nut low draw and a straight draw and a pair, and the nut low draw and Ace 4 for trips, He could have like 4 deuce, it's unlikely. Equally, he could have 4-10. And so because we haven't made a low yet, I'm just going to call here. It's probably bad. We now have the nut low and a 4. I don't think we can be behind. He did actually have 4 deuce for the boat. And so on the turn there, the reason why we didn't put in 4 bets is because we didn't have a low yet. And so because we didn't have a low yet, we were only representing 3 of a kind 4s. And if that was losing and the river breaks out like a king or something, then, or I suppose we had a king in our hand, but it wouldn't have, it would have helped us because we made 4 fools of kings. But regardless, if it had come brick on the river, we would have lost the whole pot, and we would have donated more money on the turn than we needed to. As it turns out, we won half the pot because we had the best low and he had the best high. And I think we probably profited on the hand just because of the other blinds and antes. Obviously, then there's the rake consideration to pay, but I don't know the exact numbers on how much went into the pot and how much was raked, or how much went into the pot from other players and then how much was raked rather. Not going to be playing out of position with 7-5-3. So if you want to see more Omaha high-low play, obviously the last 3 videos I put out was a 3-part edition of 5-card Omaha high-low in pot limit rather than fixed limit. And so if you enjoy this particular variant, those videos are there. Ace 4 is too bad, especially from the small blind. Of course, we would have flopped a boat, but you can't know that, and so you can't punish yourself for not coming along for every hand. If this folds round to us, we may well raise just because we have position, but in this instance we will throw that away as well. And they will get it in for the capped 4 bets. I expect at least one of these players has ace deuce. If one of them has ace deuce 4-7, then they're doing very well. And because do close the betting, I expect him to be winning more often, just because if a player has a better hand, they're more likely to keep putting in bets. Whereas in that instance of the turn betting there, we saw Dubrow call the 3rd bet rather than putting in the 4th bet. And so here we have a 5 up, whereas we have a 9-10, 9 ace king up. Unfortunately, the ace is over there, and we can't really know what our position is going to be for the rest of the hand. And so whilst we could raise with the 5 and hope the ace goes away, and we expect all the other cards to go away because they're all much higher than our facing card, I'm inclined to give the ace its room on this instance. And so Raz is a stud variant like we started the table with, except this time players are trying to make 5 lowest cards that are unpaired. 5 low being the best hand, ace deuce tray 4-5, followed by ace deuce tray 4-6, followed by ace deuce tray 5-6, and so on and so forth. There are charts for these things, you can find them in books and stuff. We are going to raise here. There's a 3 behind. The ace is the only card that scares us, but we have a 4 tray in the hole, and getting through that ace means we are most likely to win the hand automatically, just because you don't expect to be contested from a player that's got a high card up. So equally here, if this ace or 4 were to raise, we would never be defending with a 9 up, unless we thought our opponents were really loose and overly loose and aggressive. Then if we had like ace deuce in the hole and a 9 up, then we may well come along. But in that instance, it's just too bad, and we don't know anything about our opponents yet. This guy's hitting the world in the face with ace deuce tray. Of course, if a player is betting aggressively before the action starts, they may well have an ace deuce sort of hand in the hole. I'm just going to raise here. I think we can get through at least one of this 7 or 5, and our 4-3 in the hold is a pretty good holding for 2 cards. So we'll call, and we'll give up now that we've not improved at all. I was making a point before that hand. What was the point I was making? It was about starting hand requirements, about making pairs. And so if an opponent is betting very, very aggressively and they're, say, showing a 3 or a 4, they well may have like ace deuce 3 or ace deuce 4, something to that regard. And then if those baby cards then fill up the rest of their board, they may well have a pair or 2 pair in the hole. And of course, even in this game, you get 2 cards down, 4 cards up, and then a final card down. That means that any opponent that goes to showdown must use at least 2 of the cards that are facing. Facing cards, obviously the face-up cards, because you have to make a 5-card hand, and with 3 concealed cards, you have to round out. And so, say Gio at the top there, the best hand he can possibly have is 7-6 low. And already we are back to stud, and with just king high here we're going to fold. That is 31 minutes, and so I'm going to take a quick break, and you'll come back in part 2 to find me still playing this rotation of limit stud, and then we'll do the whole orbit once more, I think. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next part.